Having expelled all Christian rulers from the Levant and finally conquered Byzantium or Constantinople, one of the last remaining strongholds in Europe in the eastern Mediterranean for the Ottomans to conquer is the island fortress of Rhodes, held by the once formidable military order of the Knights of St. John of Jerusalem, otherwise known as the Knights Hospitallers. With their eventual retreat from the Levant throughout the 13th century, the Hospitallers began their slow decline, retreating first to Cyprus and then on to the island of Rhodes, significantly upgrading and fortifying the island they now called home. They had little support or interest from a Europe that was now so consumed and divided by internal political strife and religious Protestant revolution that its kings increasingly began to view this multinational, independent religious order as not just irrelevant and anachronistic, but also a potential threat to their own ambitions back home, as politics began transforming from purely dynastic feudal conflict into nationalist expansion. Moreover, it was becoming apparent that the quest to liberate the Holy Land was by now effectively a lost cause, given the rising star of the Ottoman Empire knocking at the gates of Vienna. Thus, the European powers were reluctant to finance and supply the Hospitallers, who, with their autonomy and fierce papal loyalty, now appeared to be entirely obsolete. The Hospitallers, still focused on the fight against Islam, but now left with only a few maritime holdings, focused their attention on shipping, transforming themselves into a highly disciplined naval force, harassing Muslim-held trade routes through privateering and plunder. Their piratical activity so irritated the Sultan Mehmet II, who had just done the unimaginable and conquered Constantinople, declaring himself the new Caesar, that in May 1480 he mounted a massive naval invasion of nearly 200 ships and 70,000 soldiers to invade Rhodes and crush this last vestige of Christian resistance in the Mediterranean. Despite being just off the coast of Turkey, with resupply and reinforcement for the Ottomans being easy, the defenders of Rhodes thoroughly defeated every wave of assault, even counter-attacking and routing the enemy general and taking as a prize the holy battle standard of Islam. Following the death of Mehmet II, the new Sultan, Suleiman the Magnificent, eyeing the same prize, got the message. These Knights Hospitaller may have dwindled to a mere shadow of their former glory, but they would certainly be no pushover, and they sure knew how to build a fortress. So it was that, in order to dislodge them from this tiny island, he formed the greatest armada in history up to that point, and led an amphibious assault in 1522 of 200,000 troops onto the island. After an incredible and fierce resistance lasting 6 months by Grand Master Philip Villiers de l'Isle Adam and his 7,000 battle-hardened knights, with casualties mounting, winter approaching, and troops needed elsewhere, the frustrated Sultan, afraid of the shame of calling off another siege as his forebear did, offered the knights terms. They would be allowed to leave safely with their arms and regalia if they surrendered. He would even supply ships for them to leave in peace. Seeing no way to secure a victory for much longer against such overwhelming forces, and no hope of resupply or reinforcement by a Europe too disinterested to help, the knights finally capitulated and were allowed to sail away to civil war-ravaged Europe, dispersing in all their ethnic diversity throughout the few small commanderies left, the order now all but extinguished, and any sense of Christian unity in ashes.